Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Gemma, and this is episode 266 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast, and this one is called At Last, Christmas. Thought we'd never make it. Actually, as I record this, it is 6:15 p.m. on Monday, December 29th, 2025, and y'all know what that means. It means, I went back to work today, and it was really good. It was really satisfying. I cannot tell you how many benefits I got out of this break, but it was huge. I was absolutely just kind of emotionally exhausted by the time I got to my first day off. I mean, it took me 3 days to even realize I had time off, that I was so wound up and so stressed. It's been very interesting. Let me put it that way. So, if you look at the show notes, you will see a lot of pictures this week. And of course, the show notes are at the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. And if you go over there, you can also leave us comments, which are very, very welcome. You can also comment on our group on Ravelry. But I started off the show notes with a picture of my son's gingerbread cottage and gingerbread barn. Left to right, it's actually the barn and the cottage. He loves to build the gingerbread things, and there they are with a refreshing display of my brownies and a bowl of water for the dogs on the counter with the new air fryer in the back. Yeah, I know how to arrange a photograph, I tell you. I am doing more social media, but I still will not add you to any of my groups on social media because I'm just haunted by robo accounts. So please follow me on the notes on cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. You can certainly contact me there or on Ravelry. Meanwhile, warm thanks. Well, episode 265 got some great responses. So it's our tried and true people, and I love that. Chris just loves What You Are Looking For Is in the Library. She's already read it, in fact, and she has worked in a library, has a mom who's a librarian, and she loves how basically you're in that book somewhere in at least one of the chapters. I would agree. The last two chapters are about a guy who retires at 65. Boy, I was living those chapters. But I was also struck by how close so many of those characters were to me at different times in my life. Just an amazing book, which leads me on to Knitwish, who said she'd never heard of this as a whole new genre, but she's already a fan, and she very wonderfully gave us more books in the genre. The Healing Hippo of Hinode Park, which I have heard of and hadn't read. Welcome to the, let me butcher it yet again, Hyun Nam Dong Bookshop. I know, everybody have a good laugh. And she, again, adds in What You Are Looking For Is in the Library, and a book called The Reading List, which, well, anyway, I'm not going to go, you go read her comment. But there is another group of books you could be reading. Meanwhile, DC Elaine Knit says, I just love the Rios yarn, but if you're going to steek it, now this is talking about my proposed vest in the water green. She said, do you need to be extra careful about the stay stitching and covering the edges? It seems like it would be too slippery to stay out. I'll let you know. I should know the answers to that because I've watched Jasmine Knitmore do steeking on her trusty sewing machine. Let me put it to you this way. I'm not worried. If I do a vest with steeking, I will be steeking the armholes. I will not steek a V-neck because I don't feel quite that comfortable with steeking to do a shape like that. Although from what I can tell, it's not at all hard. It should follow pretty much the same principles, but I happen to like the beautiful collar on the Novice Slipover by Petite Knit. And I want to recreate that collar. I really like it. It's a fold-over hemmed collar. So I want to do a round neck vest in that yarn. That's what I set out to do, but the stitching across the chest just came out wrong. So I'm thinking seriously, instead of doing my typical vest pattern, the V-neck, from the Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns by Ann Budd, I really am thinking about using Ann Budd's pattern for just a round neck vest, adding on that collar that I like, which may also be reproduced in Ann Budd's book for all I know, but I know Petite Knit's got a formula for it, and then sticking at the armholes. This is a good thing for me to do because, as you can tell, I've gotten disturbingly addicted to Fair Isle. And if you're going to do a Fair Isle pattern in a vest, you absolutely want to steek those armholes. And then you can do your Fair Isle completely in the round and then cut through it. To those of you who just fainted, could somebody throw some water on them? Because I know it sounds terrifying. Fair Isle, and then you steek it like, what if you kill it? I know. Jasmine, Gigi, I hear you laughing. Enjoy yourselves at my expense. That's okay. Or at DC Elaine Knit's expense. I'm not sure who's paying for it here. At any rate, look, kids, steeking isn't that hard. I've seen it done over and over. It's going to happen to me sooner or later. Fair Isle is not that hard. Fair Isle design is not that hard. Kids, this just has to happen. I know this because the other day I put on the Llama Love sweater and I improvised some Fair Isle on the sleeves because I was running out of the incredibly beautiful Lisa Souza yarn. I just hadn't bought quite enough to finish the sleeves. So I improvised using just solids that I think I got from Knit Picks. Okay. And I looked at that sweater and said, good heavens, this is a masterwork. That I saw it with new eyes, not having had it out of the box for a year or so. And I just realized this is a masterwork. This is a great pattern. The tension is really good, which is good because earlier I was saying this is one of Megan Regan's, and I was worried that I reproduced it without Fair Isle and I got uneven tension on the neckline. We can now all blame me because the Llama Love came out perfectly. But it looks so good. And the sleeves are so good and so attractive. And I thought, you have to be a pretty confident knitter. Now, none of it's hard, of course. It's only knitting. There's only 2 sticks and string, right? Don't get overexcited here. But it really is the work of an accomplished knitter. And I thought, really, the time has come for me to do a Fair Isle vest. Just got to do it. Probably straight up geometrics, nothing too complicated for that first one, but I can feel it in my bones. All right. Anyway, thank you, Elaine. I really appreciated the thoughtful comment there. Meanwhile, I also want to thank my communities. As always, the people listening to this podcast, my communities on Finch, on Reddit, on the ground in the SCV and the AV. My birds are still in Maui at the time of this recording. However, one of them will be leaving for Buenos Aires very soon because they added a new destination. And so I have to go see if there's a travel poster. So far, I haven't seen a travel poster made up for it. This is disappointing. We have to have a travel poster. All right. That's what my birds collect, is travel posters. Meanwhile, Cognitive Fiber Retreat 11.5, the link to all the information right there in the show notes. It will take you right to the information thread on Ravelry. I have a hotel reservation. The date is February 7th. That's a Saturday. I took the 6th off. I can't wait to see y'all who are going. We got a nice bunch of people going already. I forget the number. I want to say 11 or 12. It's just a nice group. This is a developing thread. We do have some classes possible there. Go read the info thread. And let's all tell Marianne, I think, who offered to teach, what we want. You can register. Send me $10. Send me $10 via PayPal. And there's my email. It is due at the time of registration. It is not refundable. The sign-ups are ongoing. Loretta 1031, of course, left us a message about what we could donate to her crocheting club for school kids. This still applies because she is overwhelmed with kids who want to join it. And then there's the pictures. Loretta got permission from the parents for all these pictures. There they are. Look at them. people. Oh, somebody's got a scarf and somebody's got a little bag that's a granny square and somebody's got hair bands. Oh my golly, that's us kids. That's the yarn we donated and our hooks. So let's keep the good work going. You can bring it right along to CFR 11.5 in February. So meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles? Well, you'll be happy to know that I finished the Winter Doodle Cowl. This got endless, and a few notes on this. I was using up leftovers, the leftover bright pink and leftover Virgo yarn in Rios, which is a white yarn basically speckled, well, a cream yarn speckled with green and pink. And it looks kind of white on the cowl, so of course, out of curiosity, I did knit in the very outermost motifs, top and bottom, are pure white. The things that look like snowflakes are actually pine boughs, I think, but I treated them as snowflakes because I like them that way. They are in the Virgo, and then there's that middle strip of pink, which I deeply regret because it doesn't have enough contrast with the Virgo. But I do like the way it divides the pine boughs in half. So that one was an interesting thing. The rippling effect, that is the ribbing. It just rippled. I have not blocked that in that picture, but you can see me wearing it. I really quite like it. A few interesting notes. Jamie Lomax, in her cowl pattern, she says something like 67 rows or 61 rows. Oh, no. I did that with my Halloween cowl, you may remember. Certainly came out beautiful, and nobody can tell what you're wearing. This one, I believe, is about, let me think. There's 23, 30. It's about 35 rows plus the ribbing. Yeah, that came out really, really well. It's 144 stitches. That worked out beautifully. So I would tell you, if you're going to do one of these, cast on 144 stitches, and you're going for about 40 rows before you hit the ribbing. 40 rows of pattern. Please don't do a huge, big, thick one unless you really like huge, big, thick ones, but I don't. I like this one a lot. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, and it goes with just about everything I own. So I didn't particularly like it. I didn't think it turned out real fancy or exciting like the Halloween cowl, but it sure is wearable. Meanwhile, I did finish the beloved Holiday Doodle Knit stocking. There it is. And the top picture is the stocking in all its lovely hanging off the back of my chair. And you can also see it hanging with our other Christmas stockings that I've made over the years on our fireplace. I have not yet put names in. I did finally figure out that on one side I'm going to put my husband's initials, and on the other side I will embroider in duplicate stitch my son's initials so that either one of them can use this. At the very bottom of those three pictures, you will see the stocking stretched out so the heel is behind it. It's lying on top of the heel, and that shows you the color work from top to bottom. I really enjoyed this. I did a little bit of change to the original pattern. The stocking itself, I did not use a short row heel. I used an afterthought heel. It worked just fine. And I used the afterthought toe. I used the toe and heel I know from my normal sock making. The actual pattern, I improvised a little because I wanted dark blue in it, because I plan to embroider on the names or duplicate stitch on the initials in dark blue. So I did a little bit of color manipulation, but not a lot. And I just had a blast with this, and I am so glad it's done. Oh yes, I'm so glad it's done. However, it is not many stitches per row, so it does go extremely quickly. The other thing I liked was I kept it, like the pattern for the first stocking, I kept it into very brief motifs. The second stocking in that pattern is big old snowflakes. Yeah, and it's beautiful, but this was the effect I wanted, and I really enjoyed it. If you're going to make this pattern, I really would suggest that you stick to the motifs that are at most 7 or 8 rows tall and just get used to it. It gets a little cramped working in that little circle of a stocking, and the ends get annoying. But they weren't that bad, and they are all woven in there. I just have to do the duplicate stitch, but there it is. I'm very, very pleased with it. It is extremely beautiful. In progress, well, the stash toss is now 102 in, 140 out. As we creep to the end of the year, I doubt that will change. And that means, yes, in our next episode, we'll be at 0 and 0. Disturbing but true. I did buy 102 skeins of yarn this year. However, I used 140. Is that mind-blowing or what? I knitted a lot. I think it's because I was very sweater heavy in the beginning of the year, and I did a lot of little projects as well. I'm very happy because, yeah, I still managed to lose a net of 38 skeins out of my stash. I grant you a lot of them went as donations to CFR11. All I can say about that is darn handy thing, these CFRs, where you can give away your yarn. Meanwhile, in progress, I haven't really touched much of anything except I finished the 2 projects above. Those are my big things for the week. I also am working on the Woobles kit that I bought on impulse last week at Barnes & Noble because it's a gingerbread girl. Right now, I don't have a picture. Oh, I do have a picture. There she is. And then I also had bought from Mini Crafts 2 kits, and there's one of them, the Druid Bear. Some interesting things here. The Woobles gingerbread girl, Meg, she was a Paper Source special, and Barnes & Noble bought out Paper Source. So now all the stuff that was unique to Paper Source is at B&N. That's great. I bought her. I thought she was cute. I got her discounted. You bet I bought her. I had $10 off. I said, why not? I thought I would sit down in their coffee house and make her. No! She's also not fast because while her basic body is very straightforward with the body and the arms, there's a lot of embellishment on her, as you can see. So I've just been doing one type of embellishment per night. So what I have left are her 2 big ponytails with their ribbons. So hopefully I will finish that. They're actually very small. They're like making arms, basically. It's the same kind of logic. Grun the Druid Bear from Mini Crafts. Okay, things you should know. Mini Crafts wants to be the Woobles, but they're using a lot of AI. Their patterns are not as well written. The construction is where they fall apart. You can figure out how to make each piece, but you have to kind of guess at the assembly. They are not good with that. They also say that they have the same kind of videos to tutor you that the Woobles have. No, they don't. They have a space for it on the internet, but they have not made them last time I checked. So if you're going to do the Mini Crafts kits, they are very cute, they are very innovative, and they are very close to the Woobles logic. This is someone looking at Woobles designs and improvising. Nice job. That's where it ends. The patterns are clumsily written. You really do need to have done Woobles or some amigurumi before you do anything from Mini Crafts, because you're going to be guessing in a few places, not too significantly, but enough to make me warn you about it. When you come to assembly, you're just going to have to do your best. They do not have a lot of photographs. You will not see the back. Most of the time, you will not know what you're doing. You just have to use your common sense on this. Having said that, as you can see, Grun the Druid Bear is adorable. All he needs is his staff, which is supposed to go in his right paw. But when I positioned his paws, his left paw is sticking up. So his staff will probably go in his left paw. That's okay. He's a magic user. He should be left-handed. Those of you who took psych in undergrad, try to figure that one out. You'll see what I mean. So I need to finish those 2. Meanwhile, I worked on the Cocoa Strange Brew. So the body is, let me think, last time I checked, I think it was 11.5 inches out of 18. So I'm working on that, which is nice because just about the time I finish all this other stuff, I will finish the Cocoa Strange Brew and be ready to finish up the design work for the neckline, the yoke, which of course I'm following the Strange Brew pattern. So I will be adapting some of the Pacific Knits or Jamie Lomax's wonderful doodles to that. Before I do that, I will be practicing either on a cowl or on a coffee mug cozy to see if my colors go well. Let me tell you, the thing I have learned from these experiments in doodle knitting is if you're going to do the yoke on a sweater, for the love of heaven, test your colors on something small first. Make sure you're going to get what you really want. The Coral Strange Brew, sleeve number 2, I'm still on the ribbing. It's pathetic. It's just following me around going, please knit me, and then get onto the size 8 needle And I want to do that because I need to liberate the size 6 needle so I can use it for my little experiment for the Cocoa Strange Brew's yolk. So the Coral Strange Brew is curiously tangled into the Cocoa Strange Brew. I must have a zillion size 6 and size 8 needles. Can I find them when I need them? No. That's what I'm talking about. All right, meanwhile, I am crocheting on those 2 little projects and knitting on the Strange Brews, and that's why I'm not finishing the September sweater. I have decided that the Cocoa Strange Brew is my Romule sweater, that I am now dedicating myself to marching through that for Romule. It is Romule right now, but I am working. I went back to work today. I do have Thursday, New Year's Day off. It is surprisingly nice to be back at work, but I'll get to that in the blather. Meanwhile, nothing in Dizzy Blondes, no spinning, but there are pictures of my wheels, my 2 wheels in my loom. They're probably going to make the trek to 11.5 at CFR 11.5, that is. So let's get on to a strategy. And again, I'm working on the 10 principles of Kaizen, and there's a nice graphic that you can download. And this is really very similar to, I think, to what I was saying last week. There's kind of comfortable overlap. Strategy number 4 is say no to the status quo. And I think that goes very much with strategy number 5, which is seek out problems. So in other words, it's very easy when you're working to just keep getting in a rut and not changing anything. And I've actually heard one manager say that he prefers that. He doesn't want innovations from his underlings. Well, good luck to him. Maybe when you're a manager. But when you're working for someone else and you fall into a rut and it gets really boring, and I think you lose your love of what you're doing at a moment like that, but you also lose any chance to move things forward productively. So I think when you're saying something like strategy number 4, say no to the status quo, I think you're really saying you can't just assume everything's working great. Now, don't create problems. Don't make work. But every job has its situations, and every time you come in as a new person, you get a chance to see them, and you get a chance to solve them. And a lot of times you're going to hear in management that, no, this is just how we do it. Okay, and this is true in your personal life. It's very easy to get in that rut. This is just how we do it. And someone comes in and they say, well, you could do that more easily. And the temptation is always to say, no, I don't feel like making change right now. I would tell you as a psychologist, in your personal life, if you're saying, I don't feel like making change, you want to question that. Because if you're in that place, that means you might want to look at taking some pressure off yourself. That's the prelude to I'm feeling overwhelmed. But when you are not feeling overwhelmed, if you stay with status quo and there are problems, you're moving inefficiently, you're stuck in a rut, and you're going to get bored. And that's just as true if you have a routine for being a stay-at-home mom as it is for a routine if you're managing a department in a company. Okay, so the idea is every place has its problems. And if you want to stay interested in whatever you're doing, whether you're working from home or raising your kids at home and not working out of the home at all, totally stay-at-home parent, or if you're working a job, you do have to say there are real problems, and you can't simply give in to it and say, let's just have the problems. Now, there is a negotiation here I would point out, which is sometimes you have to tolerate some of the problems while you work on the bigger issues first. But in general, you don't want to simply say, we're going to keep these problems, we're going to adopt them like our unloved stepchildren because we don't want to make waves. You do have to solve your problems. Now, of course, that leads to strategy 5, which is seek out those problems. If something's not working, figure out why it's not working. And the interesting thing about seeking out a problem is you may have the problem because of the roles assigned to everybody in your system. And that goes on in your home as well as on the job. So if you say, well, we have a problem, we're not eating dinner together at night, and a good family should eat dinner together at night. All right, but when you look at where's your problem coming from, well, one kid takes piano lessons and it's really important because they're talented and you can't find a better teacher. All right, that's a problem, and you're going to look at the bigger picture there and try to solve it. But you have to be careful when you're doing strategy 5 here, seeking out problems. Remember, you may have the problem because your problem is actually a form of adaptation to a situation that's necessary in your system. So you seek out problems, but don't create them. If you have a difficult situation because you must adapt to the needs of one specific person, that actually isn't a problem. That's something you want to consider. Could you do it better? But you don't want to sacrifice anyone. So seek out the problems, but remember, don't create them. Don't make a person your problem. If a person needs an adaptation, they are not a problem. And that's one of the things that doesn't show up in Kaizen. Okay, but the idea is if you want an inclusive situation in your family or in your job, you have to remember there may be people with different needs or situations. Be careful not to make them into a problem. You will see situations go downhill when everybody decides to blame one person. It happens in families, it happens on jobs. Look for your problems, but don't make their problems be a person. A person with legitimate needs that have to be solved, that is not a problem. So that really leads to number 6, which is empower everyone. So when you're looking at your workspace, your family, or your job, and someone has a special need, you want to meet that need. You want to empower your people. You want everybody to be able to step up to the line and do their part. And to do that, you have to empower them. And this is why we don't make people into problems. Having said that, anybody who's worked a job is going to say, but what about someone else on the job who really is, who is making trouble? Yes, they are making a problem. You are not making them a problem. They are creating a problem with inappropriate behavior. That is different from accommodating a need. So you have a kid in your family and they throw tantrums every night at dinner, assuming they're not in need of mental health services. Why are they doing that? They are making a problem. Why? Because they want dessert and they're not getting it. Something really trivial is what I'm talking about. There being a behavior problem, that is them choosing bad behavior. But if you have to keep postponing dinner because one of your kids has a piano lesson and that's important, that's different. Now we're going to seek a solution that empowers everyone. We can eat a little later, or we can hold dinner for that one kid while everybody eats at the normal time, whatever. But we're going to try to accommodate everyone and bring everybody with us in our Kaizen, in our constant improvement. Okay, having said that, I hope I've confused you all. Oh, shoot, nothing. Absolutely nothing going on right now. We've got wild windstorms up here. I'm barely getting out of the house. What I've been trying to do instead, during my vacation, I went down to Glendale, frankly, and exercised a lot. Walked as much as I could because it was out of the wind and the weather was better. All right, on to the fluffy books. I finished The Rainfall Market. Boy, that's weird. It's great. It comes to a really satisfying ending. It's really interesting. I finished What You Are Looking For Is in the Library. Yes, it is. You should read it. Just a wonderful book. The last chapter is about the retiree. We're hitting so close to home. I didn't listen to them at night falling asleep. I actually sat and played them while I worked on the Strange Brew in Cocoa Colored Yarn because I really wanted to hear it. And it was very, very wonderful. I am currently both listening to and reading In the Sanctuary of Wings. All I can tell you, she's a good writer, but I doubt she has ever climbed a mountain, let alone climbed it in the snow. She is blowing over stuff that I think she could spend the whole book on. However, it's not an H. Rider Haggard type story. If you want that, go read Elizabeth Peters' Amelia Peabody series. But I'm enjoying In the Sanctuary of Wings. I'm hanging out for some dragons. It's the last in her series. She later writes a 6th book that is about, I think, the granddaughter of the title character in the Lady Trent series. I'm not interested in it at all. Something I really like, my overnight fangs. If you look very carefully, there is a picture of me showing you my overnight fangs. This is my mouth guard for sleeping. This is kind of a modern miracle. They scanned the surface of my teeth and built a model of my upper plate of teeth from the scans. I did not have to sink my teeth into a mold. It was wild. Then they made it, and I came in, they fitted it. It fits like a second skin over my teeth, which of course implies my teeth have a first skin. Everybody try to take a deep breath. That's a mistaken metaphor. Okay, but in the picture, if you look just at the bottom of my top row of teeth there, you will see a little bit of acrylic looking stuff. That's the bottom of my overnight fangs. I love these things. They scared me. They fit so tightly. They really scared me. But they take a few minutes. When I wear them at first at night, I drool. It's hilarious. It's a little gross, but it's funny. And then my mouth just settles into them. What they do beautifully is at night, I had begun to clench my teeth. I was under a lot of stress at work, and I began to really clench my teeth at night, so much so that I had wild headaches and a sore neck and head. And these things fixed it in about 2 nights. But I noticed the difference the first night I wore them, which is really good, because I had a terrible time getting them off the first time. They really get on there tight. I was a little scared. I thought I was going to wear them for the rest of my life. Could I chew with them? Who knows? Could I bite with them? No, they're too blunt. Darn. I'm not giving up my power to bite people. At any rate, I love these things because I have now been headache free for over a week wearing these at night. They make an enormous, enormous difference. And the fitting was like nothing I imagined. She just basically ran a scanner over my teeth during the x-ray process. Really wild. So I love my overnight mouth guard, my fangs. Project back episodes on Proton. This is probably the last week you'll be able to get episodes 51 to 100 of this new series. For those of you who are collecting my voice, hard for me to understand, but some of you do it, and thank you. And yes, I still have to go back and ask that listener for those back episodes. I haven't forgotten you. Put a lid on it. The tea tastings. Ah, yes. Day 14, couldn't drink it. Had lavender in it. So that was kind of a no. Day 15, apple, cinnamon, pecan. Sounds good. Wasn't. That's all I can say. Red rooibos, apple pieces, cinnamon chips. Natural flavor. Okay. Now, I like red rooibos. I like apple pieces. I like cinnamon. Why did this go wrong? I don't know. It was just a massively boring tea for me. I think I don't like overtones of pecan in my tea. I have to be honest. So, not my favorite. If you're good with the nutty flavor in your tea, okay. But not so much for me. Day 16. Coconut ginger soother. Rooibos, green rooibos, ginger. I believe that's coconut pieces, cinnamon apple pieces, natural flavor. Not as good as the coconut froth that I reviewed, I think, last week. Okay, I had the second cup this morning. To be honest, I haven't been advancing on this calendar. I've been drinking the ones I already opened because I've been enjoying this calendar a whole lot this year. So I had liked it a little better this morning. I still wouldn't call this one that I want to go back and buy, but it does the job okay. However, then there's day 17, and this is a huge yes. This is Sparkling Solstice. Apple pieces, elderflower, orange, mango pieces, pineapple pieces, strawberry, rose petals, peach pieces, natural flavor. Yes, yes, Diddy, yes, yes, yes. Yes, tiddly-tum, yes, yes. I love this. I like the aroma. I like the flavor. I found it exactly what it says it is. I found it sparkling. It's just a nice, pleasantly fruity flavor without being overwhelmingly bright. I just have to say I deeply enjoy this. This is Sparkling Solstice, and it does get a high recommendation. I'm not remembering the scent in any special way, but I'm assuming I liked it a lot because I have a big yes next to it. Let's get on to the blather. Well, in the first picture in the blather, you will see the weather that we had all week last week. When it wasn't pouring rain, it was overcast and foggy. So there is the front area, weeds, fog, barn, and there's a little pony if you look hard. So what did we do all week? Well, basically, I worked on my project touch-ups. I would get up in the morning and I would do 5 to 10 minutes on our big bathroom, which needed a deep cleaning, including laying down paper towels soaked in white vinegar on some of the rust and lime stains because we're on our own well. And so we do get that. So, one day I did the shower, it came out amazing. And then another day I did the toilet, came out pretty good. So, I would do a little bit of that. And then I would do a little bit of knitting or crocheting. And then I would do a little bit of office work because I had a lot of stuff to clean up from my job, which frustrated me enormously. I just can't tell you how bad the end of November and December were on the job. They were just awful. And I did a lot of research on part-time options. I thought about, reducing my time with my current employer. It was just very, very ugly. And I don't blame the employer, but there were problems that could have been avoided. At any rate, I seem to be over that. I needed the week off. I got it pretty much exactly when I needed it. As usual, I'm regretting why didn't I take this week off. But if I had, I could have gone from Thursday through Thursday. That would have been 8 days. I went from Saturday through the following Sunday. That was 9 days. No regrets. So meanwhile, we got to Wednesday. I should say on that Saturday, I think I told you about it last week, the beloved son and I and the husband, we all went down to the Galleria, did some last minute Christmas shopping, hung out together and all that. And I talked about that in episode 265. So this is basically taking up from there. We spent the week just in the house, in the fog, knitting, cleaning, wrapping gifts, just generally picking up and enjoying ourselves, believe it or not. And getting Christmas presents from you all. And warm thanks, by the way, to, let me think, trying to remember what they call themselves. Oh, Twinset Jan. Lovely Christmas card. I really appreciated that. Thank you. All right. So Wednesday we got to Christmas Eve, and that was, of course, Jólabókaflóð. And that was lovely. I spent the day doing paperwork and cleaning and all that. But I got up in the morning and didn't do anything. I just sat in my bathrobe and PJs for hours. And I owe a lot of thanks to the menfolk for this. That it was wonderful just to hang out and relax. But I did finally get myself together, and we did party down for Jólabókaflóð. We had a lovely dinner, and I got up that morning and I made brownies. They came out a little too strongly minty. I put peppermint essence in them a little too much. But we had brownies, and we opened our books, and you can see my son there with his unopened books and his brownie. He's looking at it dubiously because he didn't like the strong mint flavor, which I'm okay with. But you can see I got 2 books, one of which I'm currently reading, The Crescent Moon Tea Room. I've got to put that up in the links, by Stacy Savinsky. It's interesting. It's a little bit different. I like it because it just starts with this, oh yeah, that's right, some people simply are witches and magical. And it's kind of pleasant that way. And it's, the house is a character in it, which I really like. The house that the tea room is in. Meanwhile, I got a copy from my beloved husband of Nancy Bates' beautiful Knitting the USA. And it is beautiful. That is a book worth having. If you like doing Fair Isle, it's just an interesting bunch of patterns. I would warn you, she relies very heavily on duplicate stitch. Even so, the most boring patterns are the most beautiful. So she gets challenged by things like in New York State, she tries to do the skyline of Manhattan. Whereas when she's out in states that are mostly scenery, that's what you get. And it's really quite nice. I mean, the one, I think it's for Maine, is beautiful. California is beautiful. Just don't bother duplicate stitching in that tent and campfire. It's a waste of your time. But they're really fun, and a lot of them will be just as good without the duplicate stitch, believe me. The one for Maine is breathtakingly pretty. The one for Kansas is really great. I might change the colors a little bit, but it is amazing. So I recommend both those books, and I'm working on them. I laid in bed afterwards, and I ate my sugar-free chocolate bar that my beloved gave me, and I leafed through my books before falling asleep and waking up on Christmas Day. Christmas Day was lovely. The best part was the gift of time. My husband, bless him, made a fantastic dinner that included prime rib. I made the infamous pumpkin spice earthquake cake with chocolate chips. And he also made lovely steamed broccoli and a very interesting squash that you're supposed to be able to eat the peel on. I couldn't bring myself to do it. But you can see my son in his sleep mask, which was a gift I gave him. He liked it. It worked very well for him. I kind of love my sleep mask. Both of these, mine and his, I got from Barnes & Noble. I showed a picture of mine in an earlier episode. They're silk lined, and it makes it really nice and very, very wearable. They're adjustable. You can see my son and I grimly pulling Christmas crackers. These were not great. They were from Paper Source a few years ago. They were pretty uninspired. Now I notice Paper Source has a much bigger selection. They were at Barnes & Noble. So next year, hopefully, we'll have slightly better crackers. But there we are being grim-faced, pulling our Christmas crackers. And you can see the magnifying glass that I got in mine. I am showing you my right eye. Why I felt the need to do this, who can explain? But it was a lovely Christmas. The presents were wonderful. I got some very, very nice goodies, including my Yellow Book of Flood books. I got a lot of books. Thank you, Quantum Quadrat. My son gave very, very thoughtful gifts. My husband gave the gift of cheeses and sausage in my Christmas stocking. And I was just really a wonderful time. I had such a great, great time. I gave the beloved Hubs an air fryer because he was experimenting with that last Christmas. I'm hoping that will inspire him to try some new recipes because he's a very good cook. And he had wanted an air fryer at one point. I also gave him, and I'm so grateful for this, I gave him Beats earphones, over-the-ear earphones. Oh man, he's been using them. There has been peace on earth and goodwill to men. But what's really nice is they have great sound quality. They do hook into Android systems quite well. And he is getting a real ton of use out of them without keeping us awake at night. So that worked out really well. On Friday, the day after Christmas, we had more fog, more rain, and more cleaning. But you can see my son building his gingerbread house there. And we were just trapped indoors for so long. When Saturday came, we were confused because it was sunny. I believe I wandered in the sunshine around Glendale. Really, I didn't do anything. I just went walking because I needed to. But my son brought up the fact that there is a sushi bar in the Galleria that we hadn't tried. Now, my son is not a sushi person. However, he is a tech person. And he said, they have robots. They have touch screens at every table. They have a conveyor belt with sushi on it. All right, we couldn't resist. The son and I went. And you can see some of what we got there. It was a lot of fun. The prices were pretty reasonable, but you do have to pay attention to how much you're eating. However, each dish is $4.10, I believe, unless you special order the sashimi, which was $4.60. It was good. 4 dishes was enough. We managed to pick up off the conveyor belt those lovely dishes of watermelon cubes. I hadn't had fresh watermelon. It's out of season, but it was a treat. And I think I also have pictures of the sweet eel there because I do love eel. My son, it turns out, he doesn't like sushi. He doesn't like sashimi, but he liked the fruit. He liked the cucumber salad, which was a little on the spicy side. I don't know if spicy is the word I want. A little salty, I guess I would say. And then I would eat the sushi fish off the top, and he would eat the rice. I also ordered sashimi. And what about those robots? Well, there they are in the bottom 2 pictures. They look like a stack of shelves that's moving. They're very smart. They put our drinks on it and send it to the table. And it's very nice. And the robots make no noise whatsoever. So we almost lost our glasses of water because we didn't realize there was even a robot next to our table till my son jumped and said, oh. In the meantime, you can see in the top pictures, the top left, you can see there's a little, well, there's our 4 plates. And just above them, there's a little doorway. When you finish with a plate, you put it in the doorway. The thing counts how many plates you've had, and it tallies it. And above, you can see there's a touch screen. Below the touch screen, there's a shelf. If you do a special order, they put that on the shelf. The chef will just put it on your shelf. Below that, you can actually see the conveyor belt. Everything comes out in these little bubble dishes. You push a button, the top lifts, and you take it off the conveyor belt. This was a lot of fun. I think my favorite thing, I think my son and I would agree, they had sesame balls that were filled with red bean paste. Those were nice, a nice touch of authenticity. We liked them a lot. I liked the sweet eel, but I didn't eat the rice with it. The sashimi was okay without being spectacular. This is the kind of place I would run in and have lunch. A caveat, they said my payment didn't go through. I paid on the screen. Fortunately, I used an American Express card. It popped up in my account right away. I went to the manager and showed him, here it is on American Express. You got paid. Do I think they were scamming me? I hope not. I don't think so. But I would pay attention if you're going to eat at Kura Sushi. Make sure you're using a credit card that you can see that it has collected immediately, because I don't trust that when I paid with their computer, assuming they were telling the truth, they said it didn't go through. Fortunately, we didn't have a big fight over it. I could show them, here it is on the American Express site. Okay, in the meantime, you can see the usual links to community resources, to the LGBTQIA plus lifelines, to the various books and such I've used, to the information on ICE and the ICE blocking app. You can see my calendar upcoming. Romuald's still on there because as of the time I record this, we are heading towards January 1st. So let me be the first to wish you all a Happy New Year. After January 1st, we're hanging on for February 7th, which will be CFR 11.5. And then on to the races and CFR 12, which is November 14th, 2026. Minerva gets the last word. As I was doing these notes, we were waiting for what they were calling the atmospheric river to drop all that rain on us that we got. And boy, we did. Flooding all over the place. A tornado actually did touch down in LA, apparently very briefly. So I think it got like one person's roof, poor thing. But anyway, there is Minerva. And Minerva just decided the weather is lousy. So she tucked herself up in among my beautiful springy, flowery pillows and sheets. And there she is, just tucked up in bed, saying, bring it on, I am ready for the atmospheric river to land. Part of the reason we all were is I wasn't silly. When I bought this house, I bought it on a hill, and the hill is granite, not limestone or sandstone, so it doesn't move in earthquakes. So we've been very fortunate in our home here in the crazy Southland of California, because we tend to weather these things. So there is Minerva weathering the storm. Minerva, of course, is happy to weather the storm with her family because she understands we are a community, and when we are together and working for each other, we are safe and well together. Because when you take care of the community, as you all know, sing it with me, you are taking care of the individual. Meanwhile, I couldn't resist a bunch of words that if you rearrange them, they spell related things. So, for example, the words 11 plus 2 can be arranged to spell 12 plus 1. Think about it. But I thought you would enjoy that. Having said all that, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, Happy New Year, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.